So my name is Arun, as I said. I'll be the instructor for the day. We will be working on building RESTful APIs using Node.js and Express, and we'll be doing a lot of stuff. Before that, there are a few things that I'll be discussing on with you. Okay. Uh, First, so let me actually give you a little handsome of an idea what full stack development is all about. So full stack has a lot of categorization, to be very honest with you people. There are a lot of categorization. A lot of people call themselves a mean stack developer. Some people call them as MERN stack developer. Some people call them as, a lot of different things. So what we'll be doing, I'll just give you an idea. What happens out here in full stack, there are two things that you have to be very, good with. The first part is the front end development part. The another one is going to be the back end development part. Okay. Now in front end development, there are a lot of technologies, a lot of languages, a lot of frameworks that goes into. So let me tell you about that. So when you talk about front end development, you have to go around with learning these technologies. First, let's start with HTML, then you go to CSS, then you go to JavaScript, and then you go to Ajax, if you might have done that. And then you go to any of the frameworks, front end frameworks, if you want to work on any of the front end frameworks. Now, there are a lot of categorization here as well. You could go with React if you want. Yeah, you can go to Angular if you want. You can even go to Vue.js, like that's also getting popular these days. Yeah. So these are few categorization of the framework. So if somebody is working on React, they call themselves as MERN stack, wherein this R stands for this React. If you're working on Angular, you call yourself as a mean stack developer, where this A stands for the Angular. And Vue.js are just like Vue.js developers. They don't call themselves anything. So when you hear somebody call themselves as MERN stacks, in that MERN stack, M is for MongoDB, right? E is for Express, R is for React, and N is for Node.js. All right, so in today's session, we are going to be working on Express, Node.js, and MongoDB. We are not going to work on any of the front-end framework part. If you want, most probably if you're joining this session, you'll get the recorded sessions for the front-end part. If you want that, you can go through that. We have actually discussed on a lot of different things. So you can go around. So that's pretty cool. Now, when we come to backend part, the backend part is really cluttered out, right? So a lot of people have a lot of different phenomenons or a lot of misconceptions on backend. Now, even in backend, there are a lot of categorizations that you can go into. Either you can be a Java backend developer, or you can have a Node.js backend, all right? And there are a lot of other as well. You can even have Python backend. So that's also the case these days. And there are a lot of other things as well, like even Spring MVC or a lot of different backend PHP for that matter, if you want that. So you can even do that. Yeah. So this session would be recorded on the YouTube channel for Innomatics. So I'll just give you the link at the end of the session if you want to go around. There are a lot of different, even in the yesterday's previous seminar, we had to look on Twitter Stream API. So if you want to go back and watch the videos, you can do that. All right. So what we will be working on, we would be working on Node.js today, and we'll be building a wholesome backend where it would be connected to a database. You will be fetching data from the database. You will be getting data from the database, and you'll be doing a lot of different things. Okay, just to be on a clear note, how many of you are very new to backend development? Like never done or like have no idea on how backend works, or you have never designed any backend for that matter? Okay. Okay. How many of you worked on backends, by the way? Oh, you have used PHP. So that's going to be helpful. Oh, a year ago, Spring Boot. Okay, cool. Even if you might have worked on Node.js and Express, I'm pretty sure you're going to learn a lot of different things out here. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, let me give you an idea of what we're going to do in the session. Yeah, basic CRUD, we are also going to do the basic CRUDs, but in Node.js. So let me actually give you an idea of what you can expect out of from this session. We'll be building a RESTful API. What this RESTful API is, we'll come back to that. But we'll be building a RESTful API. What this RESTful API is, we'll talk about that. We'll be talking about what technologies we'll be using on. So we'll be building a RESTful API. Now, what an API is just a pack of data that will be flowing from server side to client side, and you're gonna go around and render that and give it to your user for different purposes. Okay, we'll be talking about the conventional way. We are going to talk about how works on Node.js architecture. We're going to talk about that. All right, we will talk about that. Trust me, even if you have like literally no idea on how to do any Nest.js, that's completely different thing. Next.js, are you talking about Nest or Next? That's two different things. Nest.js. Okay, so Nest.js is also again a built-in library. If you want to go around and use it for building RESTful APIs, you can do that. So Nest is also like a a runtime which is for Node.js. So there are a lot of runtimes. Even we are going to import a lot of runtimes for building the RESTful APIs like Express, Mongoose, body parser, NodeMon, a lot of different things. We're gonna do that in this session. All right. Now, what RESTful API or what we'll be building, the API on Node.js, and we'll be needing this would be a runtime that we'll be working on. And then we are going to get different things. For example, we'll be working on Express for creating the server. All right. We'll be working on NodeMon. We'll be working on MongoDB. We'll be working on Mongoose. Okay. So this is the case. Now, let me actually give you an idea what we'll be building. We'll be building a REST API. Okay, how many of you have no idea on what APIs are or what RESTful APIs are? If that's the case, then let's start from scratch. If you have like no idea what an API is. Okay, no idea. Got it. Okay, so let's start from that. Yeah, let's start from there. Let's start from very scratch. So let me talk to you about APIs. Now, what a traditional way is, how many of you have actually used these banking like way back, like 5 to 10 years back? Like when you used to do internet banking, how many of you have done that? Like, or might have seen somebody else do that? Has anyone worked on all of these things? Now, you might have realized that all of these bank servers or all of these examination servers or all of these different servers you used to hit on, they used to take a lot of time. Have you ever realized that? Like it used to take a lot of time. It used to crash a lot of times. But if you talk about all of these big companies like Apple, Google, they never used to crash on. Have you ever heard that? Like IRCTC for that. Even if you talk about IRCTC, though they are changing now, but generally you might have seen a lot of bank servers crashing or a lot of different servers crashing and being like, there was a lot of load and it couldn't handle. What initially used to happen, let's talk about that. Let me give you a little idea on something called as client server architecture. I'm pretty sure you might have heard about this architecture before, but let me give you a detailed idea on the same. Let's say you are a person, you are a client, and you're trying to hit on a server just to get some data. All right. And let's say this is your server. So what you used to do, you used to make a request for any of the things. Maybe if you're looking for your marks on, let's say, what do you call, which board is it? Let's say any board for that matter. All right. So on any board's, website, you are trying to get your report cards. All right. And what the server used to do, this server used to give you a response back. Right. This is what used to happen. But initially, when the traditional way used to be in this case, what used to happen was when the server used to give you a response back, it used to give you HTML files, and that's what you used to see in your browser. So what happened was that server used to give you HTML files. These HTML files were rendered on browser, and that's what you used to see. So the response in this case was of the type of .html files. Now just try to understand, if a server, just think about it, if a server is throwing you on HTML files, and you can, and for the people who might have done a little front end frame or any front end technologies, maybe just HTML, you'd realize that there are a lot of tags like body tag, head tag, meta tags. Then inside body, you have H1, UL, LIs. For creating just a HTML page, there goes a lot of things. Don't you agree with me? Yeah, there are a lot of HTML elements that goes parsed up. That HTML file is then gone to the browser, and the browser goes around and render that page up. So that takes a lot of time. And generally, sharing these files used to be in kilobytes or maybe sometimes in megabytes as well, depending upon how the animations are done on the page and how heavy that page is going to be. So that was one of the reasons the server used to take a lot of time for actually giving you a response to the client back. But now, if you talk about the more modern way, yeah. Does the OTP system also works in this way? No, the OTP is like complete different picture. Now, if you talk about the modern way came out to be of building web pages based on spas. Anyone who has an idea about spa? SPA. Have you ever heard about this term? No? Single page applications. These are called as single page applications. That means when you talk about the frameworks like React or Angular or Vue or all of these different technologies or frameworks, front-end frameworks, these have a habit of creating one single page application just to make sure that the loading process takes less amount of time. So what they used to do, or what they actually do, they only render one page. There is only just one page that gets rendered on the browser. Once you ever get an opportunity to learn about React and all of these things, you'll realize that these are all spas. These are all single page applications. So there is just one HTML file which is rendered on the browser, and what happens, yeah, it's component based. These are all components. Even in Angular, even in React, and even in Vue, you design components and you render these components on just one page. But let's not go there because a lot of people will be lost in between. So these single page applications bring onto components depending upon what is needed to be rendered on runtime. Okay. So in this case, what happens is now the problem here arises. Try to understand the problem statement. All right. Now, if you're only rendering one page, just one page, now, if the server is hitting you with another HTML page, how are you going to render that? Think about it. The traditional way of the servers to actually send data from server side to client side was typically used to be that it can only give you HTML pages. But these modern web applications or modern frameworks like Angular or React, what they do is just give you a single page application. Now, don't you think that there is going to be a problem with that? Just think about it. And just give me a yes if you feel like that, yeah, this is going to be a lot of problem. Yeah, right. So now sharing this data from server side to client side should also get modernized. Don't you think? That actually sending response in HTML is not going to help us in any way. Rather, we'll have to come out with a modern approach of sending data from server side to client side. We'll have to come out with a modern approach. And that modern approach is called as APIs. This is APIs. API is basically short for application programmable interface or application programming interface. You can just call them interchangeably. So let's call this application programming interface. Now, what they do, just let's talk about that what an application programming interface is going to be. These backend developers who are working on these servers, when they're creating servers, what they said, so what they came out with the solution came out to be, hey, how about if we only share you data, just data, not HTML pages, but only data. So you as a front-end framework get that data, paste that in your HTML and render whatever you want to render. But create all the animations and all the HTML on the front-end part. We will only be responsible for giving you data. We are not going to give you HTML. We'll only just be giving you data. Take that data and present it pretty much however that you want. Just think about it. So what they will be doing, they will have a data. They'll have a cluster of data, and somebody would be working on client side. There would be somebody who will be working on front-end development. Now, what they are going to do, they are going to get this data, and the data will be gone to the client side, and you can render this data or present this data to your user however that you want. Think about the solution. Don't you think that this solution actually makes a lot of sense? Yeah, because see, the wholesome idea of this was going to be, yeah, so that you have to extract the data from the server and present it however that you want, right? So the idea came out to be what the problem statement was. Let's discuss on that. Server used to send HTML files, which were very heavy, which used to make a lot of traffic on the server. And the data which was about to be presented doesn't used to generally get presented in the way where we were expecting it to be. So in that case, what we asked that, hey, why don't you just give us data? We'll present that data. Okay. So front-end developers just get these data from the server. Yeah. So this is where JSON came into picture, right? For the people who have like no idea about JSON, I'll just give you an idea what JSON is. JSON is a way of representing data. Now the data that we were clustering out, now the problem here arises, how are we going to share, or how the data is going to look like? So they came out with something called as JSON, which is called as JavaScript object notation. Yeah, we'll be working on Postman as well in this session itself. All right. So JSON came into picture. We said, hey, you know what? We are going to share you with the data and we will be telling how the data is going to be formatted. Let me actually give you a little picture on how the JSON looks like. All right, now, if you actually go to, no, not GitHub, rather api.github.com/users. This is how your JSON looks like. Just go through this. For even for the people who are not into programming, just go through this. All right, just go through this. Now, this is the bunch of data which will be extracted to the front end so that the user could, or this data could be presented to the user. Now, a lot of people would be thinking how this data is going to be presented. This is just text. Don't you think so? This, what is this? This is just text. How are we going to present this? Just leave array of objects as of now, Priya. I know you were a student of mine, I believe. Priya, you were a student of mine, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So in this case, if you'll realize this data is just text, don't you think that this is just text? This is just normally text. How am I going to present this data to my user? Don't you think so? Yeah. Now, this data is actually very useful data. For example, if I just grab this URL, just this URL, go to a new tab and paste this in, I'll actually get, you know, the image back, which is actually a data, which is going to be useful for me. Don't you think so? Think about this, that this is actually a good way of presenting data wherein you're just passing on to this data in the format of a string. And what this is doing is basically giving the access to a lot of different things. You can just put it in the presentation or you can just put it in the HTML pretty much however that you want. And this is going to work. Yeah, this is just a data represented in the form of a link. I hope you're getting an idea what we are going to build. I hope now you're getting an idea. So this is the thing. This is the pool of the data that we are going to build so that the front-end developers could actually take this data and could present it to their front end or could do pretty much however that we want, right? So what we are going to build, we are going to build this data. We are going to see how this whole data is going to be built, where in a way the other people could grab this data, put it in their front end and could present it to the user and could style them up, right? So that this looks more presentable. So the problem statement of, you know, sharing files which were huge in the data, maybe in kilobytes or megabytes for that matter, that is going to stop. We are only going to share out with the data, which is going to be just a pool of data. The front-end developer is going to extract that data by using Ajax or maybe fetch, or maybe if you're working on something like promises or callbacks, you can do that. All right. So that's a like complete different story. Let's not go there. But the front-end developers can fetch this data and could, you know, present it in the way wherein, you know, that data could be useful for that. So if we are good till here, if you got the idea what we are going to build in this session, if you're good with the agenda, just give me a yes. We'll move ahead when we start talking about how and what we are going to build. Yeah, we're good. Are we good? We are on the same page. Cool. Great. So let's talk about what we'll be building and how we'll be building and how we're going to move ahead. All right. So we are going to build. So we will send all the data to, yeah, so that's not our problem. We are backend developers. So the part that we are doing is basically the part of backend. We have literally nothing to do with the front end part, but I'll just show you at the end of the session. I'll just show you, if you'll be interested, I'll be telling you how the user will be fetching all of these data and presenting it to the user. All right. So I'll do that. So if you'd be interested, you can stick to the end of the session. Just in case if you'd be interested, I'm just going to show you how this would be done. All right. So if you'll stick at the end of the session, if you'd be interested, I'm just going to show you that as well. All right. So now in this case, what we are going to do, we are going to design a full-fledged backend. All right. Now this backend would be containing few different things, and we will be working on different things. Now, first of all, we do not have a server. So that's a problem. So first of all, what we'll be doing, we'll be building a server. We'll be building a server. Okay. Second thing, we'll be building an API. We'll be building an API, or I should say an API. All right. And third thing, what we'll be doing in the session is going to connect the API to a database so that the data that we are passing should not get lost. Okay. So we'll build a server, we'll build an API, we'll make a good API. So don't worry about that. And then we'll be storing all the data and all the information to a database. All right. Now, the point here arises that what will be the API that we'll be building? So what I've thought as of now, let's start from very basic. We'll be building a products API. We'll be building a products API. In the products API, there are going to be few things that my API is going to do. Difference of Mongo and API. Mongo is basically a database. MongoDB is a database. Yeah, MongoDB is a database. And the API is just the API which we have just discussed on. All right. So MongoDB is a database. So keep that in mind. Now, yeah, API is totally different. Yeah, one thing that you need to keep in mind, I'm working on a MongoDB, which is yeah, we are going to use Mongoose. We are not going to work on Mongo client. We are going to work on Mongoose. There is a reason for that, because Mongoose is easier to, you know, grasp on as compared to the official documentation which says you should actually use Mongo client. But internally, Mongoose uses Mongo client, so that's going to be fine. Yeah. So in products, what we're going to do, we will be making a get request. We'll be making a post request. We'll be making a patch request. We'll be making a delete request. All right. Now, what are these? Let's talk about that. Can we use MySQL database? MySQL database actually takes a lot of time for configurations, and we actually do not have a lot of time for doing all the configuration stuff. But at the end, if you'd be interested, I can just give you a little points on how you're going to connect a MySQL database on that. So that's fine. All right. Patch or put, we are going to do patch. Put is completely different. Patch is completely different. Okay, how many of you have actually like have a doubt on patch and put? I've seen a lot of students and a lot of developers have a lot of confusion on patch and put, where to use patch, where to use put. So that's what we'll be discussing. We'll talk about that. But for the get, and we'll talk, and even for the people who are not getting what is this get, post, patch, let me actually explain you that. So get request is at the time when you want to fetch data from the server. Fetch data. When you want to fetch something, when you want to get something from the database to the client side. So that's when we make a get request. So there are a lot of, see, when we conventionally say that the client is going to make a request to the server, there are a lot of different n number types of requests that generally goes in, and you could see the different types. Either you want to fetch the data from the database, that's it. You want to get the data from the server to the client, that is just going to be a get request. Now you can actually post something. That means you can actually give an input. No, not modify. When you actually want to give an input to your database to save something in the database, then you make a post request. That means that if you want to give your input to the server to save it somewhere, that is going to be a post request. Post request is to write something in the database. Get something is to read something from the database. Patch request is to edit something in the database, right? Edit something in the database. Now, for the people who are confused with put and patch, put is when you are only editing stuff. Patch is at the time when you're editing stuff. For example, for the people who have an idea about backend, let me actually give you an idea. If let's suppose if you don't want to change an ID, think about it, that you do not want to change ID, all you want to do is to change the body. Then you use patch. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? When you don't want to change the ID, all you want to change is just the body part. Then you use patch. And once you are thinking of to completely remove the older ID and the older body and actually put a new post or new something in place of that, that is going to be a put request. So yeah, partially updating the fields is going to be a patch request. If you want to completely change everything, that's going to be a put request. So don't worry about that. We'll be doing patch. We are not going to do put request. So don't worry about that. Yeah, we can even change that. Yeah, we can do that. And delete at the case when you want to delete something from the database. Delete from database. So these will be the request handlers that we are going to make. We'll be making products. We'll be getting something of the product from the database to the client side so that the client gets the data. Then in the post, we are going to give as our input to, post it or write it in the database. Patch whatever that is existing in the database. We are going to make few edits in the database. And at the end, when we are all done and all set, we'll be passing on something and we'll be extracting something from the database. We good? Are we good till here? If you're good, just give me a yes, we'll move ahead. We can do that. All right, chalo. Now in get request, I'll just give you the specifications that how we're gonna go. For get request, we are going to make 2 get requests. We are going to make 1 get request on slash products, and the slash products is going to give you all the data in the database, like all the products in the database, I should say, all the products in the database. Then we are also going to make something like slash pro. Yeah, these are the routes that we'll be making. So there will be slash product slash ID, and this will only give you the info of the ID that you have passed, or the product ID based on that product ID. At the end, what we will make, or what would be the output, we'll be making a wholesome API. We'll be making a full-fledged API, something like this. No, don't use post. We'll be making an API, something like this, which will be inside a database. Okay, so this is what we'll be building. We good? So this is what we'll be making. All right. Now we'll be making a post request. Just give me 1 second. We'll be making a post request to slash products, and alongside with that, we are going to pass on with a body, and that will be written in the database. All right, that will be written in the database. Then we are going to make a patch request, and for that patch request, we'll be making a route on slash products slash ID, and for a specific ID, or for a specific product, I should say, for a specific product, we will edit. All right, we will edit, because see, we are wanting to edit a product, so we have to categorize what product we are going to edit, or what is the product that I want to edit. For that, first of all, you will have to search that product if that exists in the database, depending on whatever ID that is being passed in the URL, and then we are going to make the edit in that specific product. So I hope this makes sense. And then for delete as well, we are going to do the same thing. We are going to delete a specific products on slash product slash ID. So if you're good till here, just give me a big yes so that I could know we are on the same page, and then we're going to move ahead and start building this up. We good? Chalo, nice, great. That was actually a big yes. So I'm excited now. Great. All right then. So cool. Okay, just to be on a safe side, how many of you have not worked on JavaScript? How many of you have not worked on JavaScript? Not at all. Okay, so try to learn the syntax. Okay, try to learn the syntax. Okay, how many of you have worked on JavaScript before? Like even a little bit. So that's gonna be fine. Worked on JavaScript. So if you have worked on JavaScript, or even if you have not, try to understand how am I writing the code. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So even if you have not worked on JavaScript, you'll learn a lot of syntax, and you'll learn a lot of different things based on JavaScript, not core JavaScript, but rather something on JavaScript. Cool. Okay. So how many of you have, I worked on it, but still confused? That's fine. So how many of you know how to work on terminal, or CMD for that matter? And how many of you don't? Just give me a no for the people who don't know. No idea. Can manage. Okay. So I'll just show you a few things. There is a reason I'm doing this. So I'm working on terminal because I'm working on Mac. If you're working on Linux, that's also going to be terminal. For the people who are working on Windows, that's going to be called as something called as CMD, I believe. It's called as command prompt. ng install, array, kahan chale gaye? Aap Angular pe. We are not working on Angular. ng is Angular. So we are not working on Angular or any framework for that matter. Okay. Now from here, I will navigate to desktop. All right. And now you could see that all the files and folders that I have, you could see on my desktop for all the files and folders that are available in the desktop. And out here, I'm just going to make a folder, and I'm just going to call this, let's call this Node API. Yeah, let's call this Node API. All right. And now if I ls, you'll see that there is now a new folder that's created in the Node API. So you could say that initially it was not. Now you can, again, you can go around and do a new folder and rename that. That's going to be completely fine. But I actually want to do something out here. Okay. Now, what we want now, everybody just pay attention out from here. All right. Now, this is where the actual picture starts from. You ready? We ready? Now, try to understand each and every single step. Even if you get stuck anywhere, stop me in between of the session, put that doubt in the chat section, and I'll wait and I'll answer up your doubts. Even if it takes time, that's fine. All right. But try to wrap your head around with different things. Okay. Now, what are we doing, or what are we making? We are making an API, and that API is based on Node. All right. Now, if you want to make a folder which is going to be registered on Node, what you actually need to do is to write or give that folder an access of Node. All right. Now, what I'm talking about that this folder that I've created, this Node API folder, this folder is not going to be a normal folder. Rather, it's going to be a folder which will be managed by Node, because one of the technologies that we are working on, it's going to be Node. Now, for that, you have to be very specific that you already have Node installed. So if you don't have Node installed, you'll go to nodejs.org, you'll download the Node.js, install it, come back onto your terminal or CMD, and you'll write node -- version. And if you actually see the version, that means the node has been installed on your system. If it's not, again, go back to nodejs.org, download it, install it. It's just going to be a normal installation that you do. Just press next, keep everything as default. Just press next, restart your system, and just write node -- version on your CMD, and you'll get the version. Alongside, once the node is installed, there is a package manager, which is called as Node Package Manager, which is NPM. And if you'll try to run the same thing, that is npm -- version, you should also be able to see the version of npm. Okay. For the people who have attended up my React session, they already would have their node installed. Okay. Yeah, both Mac, Windows, it's exactly the same. Mac, Windows, Linux, any environment that you're working on, it's going to be the same. All right. So first step, do the installation. Once you're done with the installation, we want your React sessions. Yeah, you can, we can do that. You'll get it. Don't worry. Yeah, you'll get it. So I'll just share you out with the link if you want. All right. So shall we move ahead now? Yeah. Now what do I want? We good, right? Now, what do I want? I want to make this folder, this Node API folder, as a Node folder, not a normal folder, rather a Node folder. So I'll have to give the access to npm to this folder, which is going to be the Node API folder. Okay. So let's go to that folder. Right now, I'm at desktop, and I'll go inside this folder by using a command called as cd. And I'll just write Node API. All right. Initially, ls means to show all the files and folders which is inside this folder. So if I'll do ls, you'll find that there is no files or folder inside that. But now what I'm going to do, I'm going to give this folder to npm. How do I do that? By writing a one very simple command called as npm init. That means npm initialize, right? Or initialize the npm. mkdir for creating a folder? Yes. All right. So when you do mkdir, you create a folder. Okay. Now, once I get inside this folder, how ls works for Windows, just write dir. Just write dir, and it will give you all the files and folders. If you're working on Windows, just write dir. Now, you could see that there is nothing inside it, right? Now I'm going to give this folder to npm and see what happens. Now, if I give npm init and press enter, it will give you a message box. It's going to ask you few questions, and you have to answer these questions. So it's going to ask you for a package name, and the default package name that it's giving me, that's going to be API. If you want to change, you will give the input. But as of now, I don't want to change. The version is going to be 1.0.0. Now, what is the version? The version of the application that you're building. So this is the very first application, so it's going to be version 1. So I'm just going to press enter. I'm fine with that. Description for only package.json file. Yeah, you can actually create package.json externally if you want, but this is actually a good way. So description, I'm just going to write a description, RESTful API, RESTful Node.js API for basic CRUD operations. Again, you can leave this empty if you want, up to you. Entry point index.js, cool. Test command, not interested. Git repository, not interested. Keywords, Node.js, API, up to you. Author, you can actually give your name. License, not interested, and done. Boom. What's CRUD? CRUD basically means a short on create, retrieve, update, delete. Yeah, CRUD means create, retrieve, update, delete. These are the operations that we'll be building. Yeah, correct. Right, so these will be the operations that we'll be building. So we're good. So if you're good, just give it a yes. So it's saying, is it okay? So just write yes, press enter, and done. Boom, it's created. Now if I open this up on VS Code, let's go around and open this up on VS Code. CRUD means operations: create operation, retrieve operation, update operation, delete operation. So CRUD is basically the short form of all of these operations. Now, if you'll open this folder in the VS Code or any text editor for that matter, you'll see a file that will be created automatically for you. That is this package.json file, right? So if you open this package.json file, this would actually contain all the configurations that you just created out there, right? No, so just write npm init, and this will give you a dialog box out there, which will just be giving you all the options to do that. So just write npm init. Where is it? Just write npm init. Come inside that folder, write npm init, and this will give you the options, and you can just mention whatever you want or whatever your input is going to be. That's it. Okay. But again, make sure you have node and npm installed already by checking npm -- version or node -- version. Cool. Are we good till here? Anything that you want to ask as of now? Anything that you want to ask? Test command, just press enter, not interested. If you're good, just give me a yes so that I can know we are good. Shall we continue? Shall we continue? This is the code. What font am I using in the machine? I don't know. The default font? I don't know. I don't go into all of these fonts and stuff. So it's default, I believe. Code dot will automatically open that in VS Code. Yeah. But make sure you have done the configurations. I believe I've done that. So if you don't, just go to VS Code and press Command O, and it will give you an option to open that up. Cool. So shall we start? Can you repeat last 5 to 10 minutes as the internet connection was very... Yeah. So nothing. We just created up a folder, and inside that folder, you can just come inside that folder and you can just write npm init. It will give you a dialog box, which will ask you a few questions. You can answer these questions, and at the end, just press yes. And it will just make everything up for you and open that folder in your VS Code. That's it. That's all we have done. All right. Should we move ahead then? Yeah. Now, for the people, okay, how many of you are working on VS Code for the very first time? How many of you are working on VS Code for the very first time? Okay. Okay. Now in VS Code, I'll highly will recommend to use VS Code. Yeah. I'll highly will recommend you to work on VS Code. Okay. But if you want any of the other text editors, that's completely up to you. And in this case, what you have and what I like the most about, you could say what I like the most about, just a second. What I like the most about VS Code is that it has an integrated terminal. Okay. Of course, VS Code, not Sublime. It has integrated terminal. Sublime is just for writing text. That's it. But this VS Code gives you a lot of different other features as well. For example, integrated terminal. So if you're working on VS Code, for the people who doesn't know about integrated terminal, what you can do is just do command and backtick that the key which is right down at escape, and you can just open up the integrated terminal, and it's the same CMD that you can use out here, because we are going to make a lot of use of the CMD. So keep that in mind, right? And you also have a lot of extensions. As you can see, I already have few installed, so don't worry about that. So I have few extensions already there. So if you want, you can actually get all of these extensions. So that's pretty cool stuff. All right. So should we start then? Should we start building? Control plus backtick for Windows, correct? Should we start? Should we start working on the code part? Cool. So you ready? You excited? So let's do that. All right. Let's start from very basic. We'll not move to, thinking of to the moon and sun. We'll start from basic, and from there, we're going to take on to different parts and different things. All right. Now, first thing first, what do you need? You'd be needing Express. All right. What you'd be needing? You'd be needing Express, because we will be working on Express. The very first thing that we'll be doing, we'll be working on Express. I didn't get package.json file. Are you sure you worked on the same folder? I think your folder directory is not the same. Make sure you're inside that folder if you're working on. At the left hand side part, if you can see, you should get the name of the folder that you're working on inside it. जहाँ पे आपने npm init लिखा है, make sure that you have wrote this npm init at the right folder. Okay, Subramaniam. So please have a look on that. I think this is the part you have missed out. Yeah, you will get the recordings that will be uploaded on our YouTube channel if you want, so you can go around and access that. I'll be sharing you out with the LinkedIn channel, so that's pretty. There you'll find a lot of different tutorials as well. All right, cool. So, chale aage. Should we move ahead? It's from the name of Innomatics Research Lab. You can go to YouTube and search for Innomatics Research Lab. You'll get the channel. Okay, so let's start then. Yeah, let's focus, shall we? We are wasting time actually. I'll share it to you. Don't worry. I'll share it to you. Don't worry about that. Stick to the session and you'll get everything that you want. Okay. So should we start? Now, what I said initially, if you remember, we'll be working on Express, and what this Express is going to do, the Express is going to help us create a server, because we do not have a server and we want to build a server for us, right? If you remember that we'd be needing a server and we don't have that. So what we need to do, we'll have to build a server. For that, we'll be needing something called as Express, which is again a library. Okay. So just go to the terminal, just open the integrated terminal and just write out here. You can just come out here and say npm install -- save and just write Express and press enter. It will install the Express library for you and make the additional changes that you want. So as you could see that there is one of the dependencies that automatically got imported, which is this Express, because we need this Express library to actually create the server. Okay, so you do not need to do anything. Just open up your integrated terminal and just write npm install -- save Express. So just in case if you want that, I'm just gonna put that in the chat section. All right. So this is the thing that you'll be doing. Now out here, the moment you'll be installing Express, you'll see that there are two things that automatically got changed. First thing you get is package.lock.json, which you do not need to worry about anything. And then there are few files and folders, which is called as node_modules. Now these will contain a lot of different files. So don't worry about that this has nothing to do with our application. This is just the dependency that the node actually needs in order to create few certain things. Yeah, you can also do the same command in the command prompt itself, but make sure you're inside the same folder inside which you're trying to do the same thing. All right. So yeah, you can do that. Cool. All right. So should we go ahead and create the server then? Server banai. Let's go ahead and go ahead and create the servers. All right. Are we all here? Are we all on the same page? I hope you're not getting confused. We good? Guys, just a yes and I'll move ahead and I'll believe you. Okay. Now inside here, inside this folder, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new file. All right. I'm going to create this new file and I'm just going to call this server.js. Okay. Now what are we going to do? We are going to create a server. What this server is going to do, this server is going to respond to the HTTP request. What is 4.17.1? It's the version. It's the version of your node and npm. Okay. Yeah. So that's the version. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to create the server. Now pay attention out here. We are creating a server which is going to handle all your HTTP requests. So for that, we'll be needing a HTTP package, which is again a part of Express. So we'll just say is equals to require this HTTP. Now, initially for the people who are coming from different backgrounds, you would be having a habit of writing something like import something from something, right? Even if some people are working on React, this is what they write. And even if you're coming from Angular, this is what you used to write. But in Node, the same thing is written in a different format, right? In this case, you mention the name of inside the container or inside the variable you want to store, and you make use of something of a function called as require, and then you inside that you put the module that you want, right? So it's exactly the same thing. But the main point of using this is going to be that you're containing the whole library inside a one variable. So that's like pretty cool. So try to understand that. There is a difference between importing and actually doing this. So what you're doing, you're grabbing onto the whole library, which is the HTTP library or HTTP module, I should say. And this module is inside a variable now, which is going to be HTTP. Error? Where is the error? Yeah, it's available by default. You do not need to install it. I'm saying that initially for the people who were working on different frameworks or different libraries, they have a habit of doing the imports. They write import something from something. Even for the people who work on React or Angular, they have a habit of doing this. Okay. But if you're not coming from all of these things in Node, the same thing is written in a different format. Initially, what do? You mention the name of the package or the library or the bundle that you want. So this is the name of the module name. You used to write it out here. And then whatever package that you want from that bundle or from that module, you write it out here. But in case of Node, you just mention the name of the module out here and store it inside a variable. Actually, this is not a variable. This is called as an alias. That's like a different thing, but you can actually understand it like a variable. So you are containing the whole module inside a variable, and you can use all the functions and attributes and different things out of it. So this is a way how Node.js works. So I hope you don't have an issue with that. Okay. All right. So you can just think of this as a syntax. Okay. So it's exactly like import something from the module name, and it's going to do the same thing. All right. Now what we'll be doing, we'll be creating a port on which the server is going to be deployed. So what we'll be doing, we'll just write const port, because we'll be working on local system. Abhi, as of now, we're not deploying it anywhere. It's not on the internet that it will be working on any link. Like for example, it's not going to be going on like api.github.com. We'll be working on local system. So for that, we'll be needing a local port. So for that, what we are going to do, we are going to say process.env.port. Now, don't worry about this. There are a lot of developers who have a habit of creating the ports in a different folder, something called as virtual environment, but we do not have a virtual environment. So neglect that. Rather, we'll be making this listen to what port should we do? 3000, 4000, 5000, 4300. You can pretty much choose anything for that matter, but generally people have a habit of choosing it from 1000 to 5000. So that's completely up to you. Process.env, it's called as virtual environment. We do not have it as of now, but initially, your Express app looks for virtual environment, but if it doesn't find any virtual environment, so we put our OR symbol so that if you do not have a virtual environment, then listen to this port. All right. Port is doing something like we are not deploying it somewhere. Hamare paas, we do not have a URL inside which we can host a server. So what we are doing, we are making a port in the local system. So in this case, what will happen? It will look onto localhost 3000. So once you'll type this in your browser called as localhost:3000, so this API will work as a server at the time when you'll be deploying this or when you'll be running the server. This will be listening to localhost 3000, because as of now, we do not have a URL because we are not deploying it anywhere. Aditya, I hope this makes sense. So for that, we are making something called as a port, which is going to run on localhost. Okay. Yeah, because it's going to work on our local machine. We good, guys? Shall we move ahead? Should we move ahead? So don't get confused out there. All right. Now, what do we want? We want to create, or we want the server to listen to the port. So we'll just come out here. We will actually create the server first. So let's go around and create the server. Let's say const, and let's say server is equals to this HTTP dot create server, and this create server actually takes something. We'll talk about that, what it's going to take, but as of now we are just creating server, and the server will actually dot listen to the port that we have just created. That's it. So what do? We created, or we imported this module, or inside this module you have a function called as create server, which basically gives you the functionality of creating a server, and the server will now start to listen at port number for whatever port number that we have mentioned out here. Make sense? Make sense? So this is what we have done. Okay, so we imported HTTP, we are creating a server, and we are listening to a port. Now, what we asked, or what we said that we will be creating the server on, what do we call this as, Express, right? Const is completely up to you. It's more secure. That's it. Abhilasha, const is more secure because there cannot be more changes on it. So you can use let, you can use var as well. That's completely up to you. But just for security purposes, this is what I'm doing. I'm just using const. You can use let, you can use var. That's completely up to you. So just because there cannot be any changes that could be done on this, I'm using this. All right, just for security purposes. That's completely up to you. Now we said that, okay, if you remember at the start of the session, I said that we will be creating our own server on Express. Do you remember? That is the reason we installed Express down there, as you could see. Yeah, do you remember? But there is nothing as Express which is coming out here. It's just HTTP. So now what we are going to do, we are going to create a new file, and we are going to call this file as app.js. Now, what is this file going to do? Let's talk about that. This file, now listen to me very carefully, because a lot of people get confused with the file. Whatever things that you'll be doing, whatever things, maybe the thing is going to be connecting a database, or making any routes, or making anything and everything you will be doing in your application should be registered in this file, which is going to be the app.js file, because this app.js file is the Express file. This Express file has a look on each and everything that we will be doing in the application. Maybe we are connecting it to a database, we are making routes, we are doing anything for that matter, whatever and anything that we'll be doing, we'll have to mention this in this file, which is going to be the app.js file. Oh, from Spa, we have done a lot of things after Spa, Vishal. Just try to wrap your head around this, you'll get an idea. Yeah, it's exactly like the app module in Angular, wherein you register all your components out there if you might have worked on Angular, right? So in app.component.ts file, what do? You register all your components. You have imports, you mention all the components out there. If you're working on Angular CLI, that's done automatically. But if you're creating the component by your own, by giving the decorators, in that case, you'll have to mention that component in your app module. For the people who are not from Angular background, that's fine. All right. The recordings would be available. Don't worry on that part. So we good? So should we create the Express app then? And let's talk about this Express app in detail, shall we? Quickly, just give me a yes or no. Should we do that? Now we'll be creating an app which is going to be based on Express. So first of all, we'll have to bring on Express, right? So what we'll do, we'll just say const Express is equals to, again, I'm importing stuff, so I'll just write it this way, Express, right? Now we have Express. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to execute this Express app. How? Very simple. I'm just going to say const app, and I'm going to execute Express like it's a function, because the name that I've given out here is the Express. So I'm just going to, just run Express like a function. So this is how you actually use Express. So this is basically a function which runs once you're creating the Express app. First of all, what you did, you imported it inside a variable, and using that variable, you can just run Express just like a function. That's it. This is the beauty of Node, and this is the beauty of JavaScript. Okay. So what we did, we required Express, we imported Express, and once we have Express, we are going to run the Express just like a function. and we are going to store this inside a variable. Make sense? Guys, does this make sense? Okay, cool. Now, just to test the application, what I'm going to say app.use, and what I'm going to do in the app.use, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass three things. Don't worry about this. I'll come back to this. I'm just going to say req res next. I don't know if a lot of people have an idea about promises and callbacks and stuff like that, but I'll come back to this. Don't worry. All right. And inside this, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say rest.status. I'm just going to say 200. Yeah, it's just going to return. I'll tell you. Don't worry about that. Just give me 1 second to write the code. I'll explain it to you. .json. And inside this, I'm just going to say, let's say a message, and it's going to say the message is going to be it works. All right. It just works. I don't know how it works, but it works. We'll explain you that. But now let's say this is the server that we have created. Now, as of now, I don't know how the server is created. I have no idea what this req res next is. We'll talk about that. But this contains a few little code. That's more important. Okay. So abhi filhal ke liye, let's assume the server contains a code. What this code is, we'll come back to that code. But let's assume that the server is containing few code. All right. So don't get confused. I'll come back to this again. Don't go to the code part. Just have a look on it out here, that what we are doing, we are just going to say, something like this. Okay. Now, what we are going to do, we are just going to say module dot exports is equals to app. Now, see, this is a Express app. Now, open your ears and open up your brains and listen to me very carefully. All right. What is this? This is an Express app. What do we want? We want our server to run on Express. That's what we want. That means that if you look at the server.js file, I'm saying create a server. But what server it needs to create, it has no idea. That means I should actually have an option to import app, which is actually a Express app, which is based on Express. I should be able to import it out here, writing something like this. I'm just going to write it something like this. I'm going to say const app is equals to require what? Your app, which is this. All right. So I should have a way of importing app to server. For that, I will have to mention that, hey, this is going to get exported. That means other files are going to include this file inside the body of their own code, or that means other files can actually access this app. So for that, you'll have to export this file. I hope this is making sense. I hope you are not doubting on line number 10, that what is this line number 10 doing? Because this app file, this app.js file will be used in other files, and other files are going to import this file. For that, you have to mention that, hey, somewhere or the other, this file will be exported. I don't know where, but this will be exported. So you'll have to make this file exportable. So that's what I'm writing out here. I'm saying, hey, module.export, this file will be exported somewhere. And now what we are doing in the server.js, we're importing this app file and we are passing to create the server. That's it. That's it. That's what we are doing. We are saying, hey, we are going to create the app, right? And the app will be based on the Express app, right? And this is how the Express app is. Express app is importing Express, it's executing Express, and something is out there, it's exporting that up, whatever code this is, this code will be imported out here and it will be passed to this create server, which is going to run that server up. Make sense? How many of you confused? How many of you got that? If you got it, just give me a yes. If you didn't, just give me a no. I'll explain it to you. Didn't get it? See, the point is very simple. So try to understand, try to wrap your head around with this. What do we want? We want a server. We want a server. This server should be based on what? Express. So once we are creating the server, what we are saying, we are creating the dummy of a server using a HTTP. Using the HTTP module. So we created the server. This is the server that we have. We have created the server. The point is to make the server a Express app or Express based server. What we do, we said, what? We are going to create a complete different Express file, which will be containing code. And what we are going to do, we are going to pass this Express app to the server so that the server is also going to become the Express server. Now I hope this is making sense. Is it making sense now? So because we wanted our server to be an Express server, we created the whole Express app on a different file. We exported that different file, and inside the server, we imported that Express file and we started using it as Express. That's it. I hope now this is making sense. Just understand the basic layout. Got it? The basic layout is very simple. So in this case, we just created up the dummy. Initially, it was just the HTTP dummy of a server. Now what we are doing, we're creating an Express app, which is containing few code. We have no idea about it. We'll talk about that. But it's importing Express, it's running Express, it's exporting Express. Because it's exporting Express, we are importing the Express file out here and passing it to the create server. And we are just passing this file out here, which is just a Express app. Correct. Correct. Now, I hope everybody is good with the part. Everybody is good with the part. Everyone? Everyone? Sure. I'll run the code and show it to you. But before that, I actually want to show it to you about this. That what is this? REQ, RES, and next. Should we talk about that? Should we please talk about REQ, RES, and next? Okay. These are three things that we'll be needing throughout the course. One thing is REQ, another one is RES, and the next thing is called as next. REQ basically shorts for request. RES shorts for response. Next basically shorts for the functionality. What does this mean? It means that this Express app is capable of accessing any request that is coming in, what the response is going to be generated, and what will be the functionality of that response. The Express app is able to capture on all of these things. So this is what I've done. I have done is I'm saying app. What is the app? The app is the Express app. So I'm saying app.use. Use is a function inside which I'm passing a function. Again, it's a function. It's a ES6 arrow function. And inside this function, I'm passing three things: a request parameter, a response parameter, and a functionality next. Let's not talk about callbacks as of now. A lot of people will get confused. Typically, it's a callback, but I'm not going to call this as a callback. I'm just going to call this as a function because a lot of people will get confused on that. Okay. Typically, it's a callback. Okay. It's a callback, or rather I should say, yeah, it's a callback, and we'll convert this into a promise in a little while for the people who are good with ES6 syntaxes. But you could see that I'm creating a function which is containing three parameters: request, response, and next. And what I'm doing, I'm setting the status as 200. 200 basically means in coding, 200 means that everything is okay, right? And I'm saying, hey, Express app, listen to me. If everything goes okay, if the status is 200, that means if everything is okay, I'm going to pass a JSON, and that JSON is just going to print a message saying it works. Just try to think about it in this way. It's just going to say that, hey, this is going to be the message, and the message is just going to display, hey, it works. That's it. Make sense? Does this make sense? Let's actually go ahead and try this up once. So let's go ahead and try this up. So let's head to the server. Let's run the server. I'll explain. Don't worry. I'll explain. First, look at the output. I'll head to the server. I'll run the server. How will I run the server? It's very simple. I'm just going to say node, just node, and just name of the file that I want to execute. In this case, I want to run my server. So I'll just say node server.js. And you could see you'll not get an output because it's just depicting you, hey, the server is running. This is just running. You are not supposed to close the server. If you want your server to be up and running, you just have to need to stop this. You do not need to stop this up. Now, if I go to any of the browser and look for, if you remember, the port that I had was localhost 3000. Did you see? A message popped up and it says it worked. Make sense? Does this make sense? Yeah. So the message that we are showing, this is a response. And if I actually go ahead and inspect this, if I inspect this, and if I go to the networks tab, and look for this local host, you will be able to find out let me actually open it up in Chrome. Let me actually open this up on Chrome. Let me just give you 1 second. Let's actually go to localhost 3000. This is the message. If you'll inspect the page, and for the people who doesn't know how to inspect the page, just go to more tools, come to developers tool. This is how you inspect the page. If you go to networks tab, out here, if you'll refresh, you'll see a localhost file that is coming up. And as you can see out here, the status code as of now, it's 304, saying it's not modified. Okay, it's just going to show you that it's not modified because we have not made this modifiable as of now. But you can see that it's coming on runtime. Everything is coming on runtime. There is a GET request which was being done by the browser itself, and this file is coming out to localhost 3000. I hope this is making sense, right? So if you'll refresh, this will work again. Abhi karte hain Postman. Priya, just give me 1 second. When we'll be designing post request, then we'll come to Postman. Okay, abhi filhal ke liye, let's not confuse people. If I'll show them Postman right away, they will get confused. So actually, what is the use of Postman? They should actually know what's the use of Postman. But for GET request, we can do it using browser, right? For post request, we'll have to do a lot of stuff. If you're good till here, just give me a yes. If you're not, if you want to ask something, please ask. But if you're good, just give me a yes. We'll move ahead quickly. Are we good? Without any confusion. Yeah, correct. Sorry to. Can I get the remaining session, please? Up to you. Up to you. You will get that up. Not working for me. Make sure that the node is Sibin is the node is installed. Okay, I got it. You have done the syntax error. For the people whose page is only loading and nothing is coming up, if the server is up and running, everything is coming up, you have done or you have made mistakes in the syntax. Make sure that you have written everything exactly the way that I have written it. Make sure that it's module dot exports, not export, but exports. Server.js, please have a look. Take a little time because the main part is about to come in, and I don't want to confuse you people. So once you'll be ready, once you'll be done, just give me a yes, we'll move ahead. NODE space server.js. Make sure that the name of the file is written correctly as server.js, right? Okay. So yeah, once you'd be done, just give me a yes, we'll move ahead quickly. Ready? Sure. Now let's actually let's do one thing. Let's make few routes. Okay, let's make few routes. Shall we? Let's make few routes. This is the app.js file. Okay, cool. So should we make few routes? Worked? Chalo. Make sure that whatever I'm writing, you write the exact same way because the syntax actually makes a lot of difference. All right. So keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So make sure that you have the latest version of Node. If not, just go around and update that app. A route is basically what's going to be routed particularly. So that way. Should we start then? Shall we? Cool. Now for routes, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to create a folder out here inside the file directory. I'm going to create a folder and I'm just going to call this as routes. Okay, this is just routes. Now routes is going to take care of all of the things that you will be doing in the routes part. Routes are going to be the same thing that we actually discussed at the start of the session, that we'll be creating few different routes, for example, slash product, slash product, slash ID. So this is what we'll be doing. This is what we'll be building now. We'll be building onto the routes part because this routes is going to give me all the data. All right, so you ready? Guys, I hope you're not getting confused. How many of you are still confused? If you're confused, give me a confusion. If you're good, just give me a yes so that I can know we are on the same page. Right. Others, I'm asking it to everyone. Even if one student is confused, the whole idea about this masterclass is going to be nothing. Okay. So now we'll be creating routes. Now inside these routes, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create. Let me actually go ahead and create, let's say, products. Just products, nothing else. Or rather, let's do one thing. Inside this routes, let's actually create a new folder. And let's call this, what should we call this out? Inside the routes, or rather, let's do one thing. Let's actually delete this. It's exactly like let's actually create a new folder and let's call this API first. And inside this API, I'm going to create a new folder, and that's what I'm going to call this as routes. I'll tell you why the reason I'm creating folder inside a folder. When we'll be coming with body parser and doing a lot of body parsing stuff, then this will start to make sense. Okay. So what I've done nothing actually. I'll just show it to you. What have I done? Inside this node API, I've created up a folder called as API. Inside that, I've created another folder, which is routes folder. Inside this, I'll be containing few different things. We'll be setting schemas, will not be using services, we'll only be using controller. I think Pradeep, you're coming from Spring Boot background. That's what I can think. You're coming from Spring Boot background, no? I can tell it from the questions that you're asking. You're coming definitely from Java or Spring Boot background. You know? So that's where you actually make all the controllers and MVC architecture and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. So let's do that. So let's create a file inside this, and let's call this inside routes. Let's create a file and let's call this products.js, because inside this we are going to create all the routes. So let's call this products.js. Okay, cool. So again, should we start? Let's build these routes quickly. These routes will not take much time. If you pay attention, we can just build these routes like in a second. But again, just pay a little attention. Again, these routes will be managed by Express. So we'll be needing Express. So for that, let me actually import Express. So Express require Express. Okay. Cool. What is the best language for electronics? JavaScript. Just focus on JavaScript. Now, because this is going to be a file which is going to make all the routes. That means it's going to make all the slash product, slash something. But as of now, we are going to make this file as a router file. Okay, we are going to make this file as a router file. For that, what we need to do is to make a router for us, right? So for that, you can actually create a router, and you can just come out here and you can say const router, and you can import router from Express. So you can just write express.router. Okay. Now this router is going to give you all the methods that we talked about. Can we use import keyword rather than require? I don't think so, because this is the ES6 way of doing this. So ES5 ways is not a recommended way, and I think it's deprecated now. It doesn't work anymore. So if you try to do import, it's deprecated. It won't work anymore. Okay, so I think the answer is going to be no. We'll have to do it this way itself. All right, so now do we have this router? we are going to make few different routes. Now, what were the routes that we were talking about? If you remember, we were working on a get route and a post route and a patch route and a delete route. So if you're ready, we can actually create all of these 4 routes. Should we make this? Let's make this. Okay. Now it's very simple. Now pay attention. This is not going to take lot of coding or any of the brains for that matter. This is just going to be a simple thing, and you'll realize how easy it is to make all of these routes using Node.js and Express. So what we are going to do, we are gonna make use of this router, and we're just gonna say router dot whatever you want to do or whatever request that you want to do. For me, I would be needing a get request. Okay, that's it. And similarly, out here, when you actually make a get request, this will be taking few things from you. First thing that it's going to take that where is it going to go? For us, it's going to be just slash. Why just slash? We'll come back to that. But as of now, it's just going to be slash. I'm just going to keep it slash, but we want our route to actually go to slash products. If you remember, the first route that we talked about was slash products, a get request to slash products, which is going to give you all the information from the products in the database. As of now, we are not integrated database, but we'll just have this route as of now. Okay, we good? So what we are doing, we are making a get request. Chalo, abhi ye filhal ke liye just you do not get confused. A get request to slash products. Good. Okay till here. Okay till here. A get request. So using router, I'm making a get request to slash products, and the slash products again will have the same thing. If you remember, we just talked about this. This will have a request, a response, and a next function, and this is going to execute. Whatever you're going to write, this is going to execute. Again, the same thing, that the response, if the response has a status code of 200, then I'm going to pass a JSON, which is going to say, let's say, a message, and this message is just going to be, let's say, handling get request to slash products. All right, that's it. All right, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this out, paste for the let's say the post one, and let's say the patch one and the delete one, and alongside I'm also going to make one more thing, which is going to be slash product slash ID, if you remember, right, which is going to search you for the ID. So get request to slash product slash an ID, if you remember, and this is just going to say handling get request to slash product slash ID just for testing purposes. Then router dot post request to slash products, and let's say we are making a post request to slash products, and similarly a patch one. So I'm just going to use patch. So a patch request. So let's say handling patch request, and I'm going to say, let's say slash ID. Okay, or let's slash ID. Let's keep it ID. And again slash ID for delete. Right, and let's say we are handling delete request. So I hope this is not making any difference for you people. I hope everything is okay. So I've done the same thing. The basic thing is that I'm just creating a dummy code, right? This is just dummy code. This is not going to do anything. This is just going to display that, hey, if you're making any routes, just to be sure that whatever routes that you're making, if you're making a get route or a post route or any route for that matter, this should work. Okay, this should work. That's the whole agenda for us as of now. This is just a dummy code. We'll come back, we'll change this dummy code. Don't worry about that. But as of now, you'll see that the whole stuff around the same thing is just the same. The only thing that is getting changed is get to post to patch to delete, and just the message revolving around the same thing. Okay. Are we good till here? Are we good till here? Right. Now, we have made these routes. Okay. We made these routes, but these routes are needed to be used in the app.js. Okay. We need these routes in the app.js. So we will have to mention, as I said, that anything and everything that you will be doing in the API, you have to mention that up in your app.js. Do you remember? I told you about that. Remember? I told you that any of the things that you will be doing inside the API, you will have to tell that to your app.js. So let's go to app.js and tell that, hey, app.js, we have created few routes and we want you guys, I want you as an application to enable those routes. That's all you want. Make sense? Make sense? So I'll just come out here and I'll import that file, which was this products.js file. And I'm just going to say, let's say const products, or you know what? I didn't export that out. So let me actually go around and export. So let's say module dot exports is equals to, let's say product routes. Let's make this product routes. What should I call this? I'm just gonna make it easy for you people not to get, or let's just call this routes. All right, let's just call this routes. Save, come back, and I'm just gonna say const, let's say product routes is equals to require, let's call this routes. Okay, now I imported the routes that I exported from the other file, and you could see that I'm importing this up out here. Okay, so I hope this is not a confusion, or rather I should actually target onto that file rather. And so let's target onto that in the API. You have routes, and that is products routes. Cool. So that file, that particular file, I'm importing and putting it in my products route. Make sense? Does this make sense? That what have I done? So I mentioned those routes there. Again, the same thing. I'm exporting those routes and I'm importing that file, that routes file out here, and I'm just keeping that inside the product routes. I'll tell you, I know, just for them to actually understand things, I'm gonna get rid of that. Don't worry. I've given the full routes, but I'll tell you that why have I given. But as of now, everybody just got an idea that what are we doing out here? That we are making a use of /products /ID /products ID, which is a post request, which is a patch request. For a delete, we are using /products /ID, and so on and so forth. So I think everybody's clear on this part, that how are the routes being mentioned? Are the routes okay? Guys, are the routes okay? If yes, give me a yes. Is the routes okay? Cool. The routes are okay. Then let's do one thing is we'll come out here and we're just going to say, let's handle all the routes. So handle the routes. So let's handle these routes. So you'll just come to app and you'll say, hey, app.use. Now the app.use uses a default, you could say a landing page. Now, for example, if you're creating an API for /products, it's going to take whatever URL that will be used in order to access that resource. What is the resource? The API is the resource. So what we are going to do, we are going to pass /products already. That means, just try to understand that. This means that if I want to access that API, I will have to go to localhost 3000 /products. If I want to access this route, this particular route, I will have to go to localhost 3000 /products. This is default. This is default. And I'm saying that everyone who will be accessing it using the URI should have /products in their URI. Then only I'm going to give them what? I'm going to give them these product routes. Make sense? Is it making sense? So I'm handling these product routes. What are these product routes? These are the product routes. And I'm saying, hey, these should always have /products. Now, if they already would be having /products, if I also use /products out here, the URL will become localhost 3000 /products. Don't you think so? Correct. Now I think you are getting onto the point, that what the point is. Is it making sense? So I don't want to make it /product/products because I've already mentioned /products out here. So I'll just get rid of these products now. So one is going to be just for slash. The another one is just going to be for /ID. The another one is going to be a post request to /route to /product. Another one is just going to target onto the ID. And the another one is also just going to target onto the ID. Why am I not writing /products? Is everyone okay with that? That why am I not using /product? See, I'm saying that if you want to access these functions, the get function, the post method, the patch method, or the delete method, I will have to have /products already in my route section if I want to execute these product routes. That's it. So if I also mention /products in my routes, it will make /products/products. That is something that I don't want. Now I hope this is making sense. Is it making sense? All right, cool beans. So now let's stop the server and run the server again. So let's say node server.js is equals to routes. Route is not defined. Module.exports. What have I done? Module.exports. Oh, what have I called this? Oh, router, right? So it should be router. Sorry, typo. So now I think this is up and running. Now if I go to localhost 8080/products, can you see that? A message handling get request to /products. Can you see that? Can you see that? There is a message incoming which is saying handling get request to /products. But I can use something like get request using a browser. But how will I test that I should have a post request and a patch request and a delete request? Don't you think that it's going to be a problem? Yeah, because I can handle get request because the browser only makes a get request. But what about the other requests? Anyone who has might worked on good? Postman is going to come into the picture. Postman is an application, not Swagger. Swagger is used for documentation. Swagger is used for documentation of the API. Okay, so Swagger is like completely different picture. What we are going to use, something called as Postman. So are you ready? Should we start to use on Postman? Should we start to work on Postman? So for the people who have no idea about Postman, so you can just go to Google and you can just write Postman download, and you can just get these Postman. You can just download it. It will hardly take any time. You can just go around and download this. I already have this downloaded, so I'm just gonna open that up. All right. Oh, this is going to open Postgres. So Postman. Yeah, so I'll tell you about Postman. Postman is basically an API testing tool. Okay, as I just said, how are we going to categorize that if the get request is working, or the post request is working, or the patch request is working, or the delete request is working? So for that, Postman comes into picture. I think that this is not the right Postman. Is this the right Postman? Oh, my Chrome is already open, I believe. So I think that this Postman is not a right Postman. Chalo, okay, not a thing. I think it updated itself. So never mind that. Okay, cool. So let's do this. Okay. Now, everyone just pay attention. Everyone is here. Yeah, I think it updated automatically. So you could see that the moment you'll be opening this up for the very first time, you could see that it basically is a workspace wherein you can monitor all your servers, how they're responding, how they're working on the routes and stuff. So you can just actually come out here and you can create a new request, right? And now from here, you'll get this panel. If you'll see this panel carefully, from here, you can select the different kind of like the requests that we have. So let's say if I want to select get request to, let's say, localhost 3000/product, products, that the route that we have created. And if I send this should give me a response back saying message handling get request to slash products. Make sense? Does this make sense? So this means that the get request that we made is working fine. Again, you can test this to slash products, post request to slash products, send, you'll see a message handling post request to slash products. Then again, a patch request to slash products, send, it works. I think I might have written it, it works, but let's see. You can see it works. It just works. How it works, I don't know. But let's see. Didn't I write it? Oh, I didn't. Oh, sorry. I didn't mention the ID. I'm so sorry. So slash for patch. Yeah, it's handling patch request and it should also handle delete request to slash ID. Right. It's working fine. So that means the API is working fine, but as of now, there is no way of doing something on the API. So that's the thing that we'll be changing now. We'll be integrating database. Cool stuff, cool beans. We good? If you're good till here, if you don't have any doubts, just give me a yes. We'll move ahead and do certain other things as well. Shall we? Let's make this a little interesting now. Okay, cool. Now, let's see. Let me actually give you. What should we start on with? Should I start on with body parser or should I start on with? Chalo, let's see. First thing first. Let's actually start with. Let's actually start with body parsers. Or actually, let's start with NodeMon. Okay. Now, if you see that every time we are making any changes, we'll connect to the database. Don't worry. Now, if you'll realize that every time we are making changes, we have to rerun our server. Don't you think that we have to stop the server, that rerun the server again? So that's like pretty pathetic. Don't you think? So for that, yeah, for that, you have something which you call this as NodeMon. Right? We have to do Control C. First, we have to stop. Then we have to do the same thing again. We have to write node something and stuff like that. So that's like not good. So in that case, what we can do, we can use something called as NodeMon. Okay, so NodeMon is basically something like a live server for API. So let's do that, shall we? Let's do that. So let's install that real quick. So just come out to the terminal and just write npm install -save -save and just write NodeMon, right? And this will install the dev dependency. Dev means just development dependency. So it's only will be available till the time you're developing something. Kind of, not exactly, but it's just more powerful, more robust as compared to PM2. But again, you can use PM2. That's completely up to you. Now, if you'll have a look on your package.json, you'll see our dev dependencies out there, and NodeMon is one of them. But there is a problem with this. The problem is that if you'll write the same thing, because initially what we used to do, we used to write node server.js, right? Server.js, and it used to work, right? The same expectation we'd be having with NodeMon, wherein we can just come out here and we can just write NodeMon server.js. And you'll see that the command is not found because it's a dev dependency. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do in the script stack, I'm going to add a new script, and I'm just going to say the start script. And inside this start script, I'm just going to write NodeMon server.js. That's it. So now we'll be just writing npm start. You can see NodeMon is up. NodeMon is working fine. Make sense? Guys, make sense? That what have I done? What have I done? Makes sense? Okay. So we installed NodeMon, but NodeMon was a dev dependency. So if you just write NodeMon server.js, it's not going to work because it's a dev dependency. So I added up a script out here saying start, that when I'll be writing npm start, this should work NodeMon server.js because it was a development dependency. So you have to be careful about that. Now we have NodeMon up and running. So even if I'll do any changes, for example, if I just come out here, let's say app.js, let's say all the routes, let's say, even if I'm writing just comments, so I'll just, even if I'll say all the routes and save, you'll see that it restarts the server. Like, that's pretty cool. I'm just gonna stop the server for a little second. And now we'll be talking about body parser. Now, quickly, let's complete the body parser and then we'll integrate the database. Shall we? Let's do that. Now, body parser is going to be useful at the time when you're making requests like /id. Where will, okay, if I ask you, where will this ID be coming from? Where is this ID be coming from? Ye ID kahan hogi? Where will this be ID? This will be in the request. That means you will have to parse the body of the thing, or even when you'll be making a post request, right? If you'll be making any post request, you will have to be very, very sure that what is inside the body, right? So in that case, you have to get something called as body parser. Okay. So let's go ahead and install body parser real quick. Let's say npm install -- save, and let's say body dash parser. Okay. So let it install. This won't take much time. Cool. Installing NodeMon, unsupported platform for OS Darwin. Are you working on Mac, Sibin, or are you working on Windows? Windows. Okay. That's going to be a problem then. Oh, has she written wrong? Node Manny, Node Mon, MON, Node Mon. Node Mon, yeah. Chalo, let's move ahead, shall we? Aage chale? Now, once we have this body parser, again, we'll be making any changes with the server. So we'll have to go to app.js and we'll have to import this body parser. So let's go ahead and import that. And let's say body parser. I'm writing this in camel case notation, body dash parser. So if you want to install body parser, so just use this. Okay, just use this command. Body dash parser, all right, body -parser. So const body parser, and let's actually require this body parser. Let's say require body parser. Okay, and now in this body parser, we will be making use of body parser. So let's actually once we before actually we handle the routes, we should actually do the body parser part. So let's say use body parser. You can use single quotes, you can use double quotes. It's up to you. Node.js. Why are we using body parser? Because we'll be needing a response body. Because even if you'll have a look on the patch request or delete request, the ID is coming from the URL. Oh, okay. All right, now we'll be using this body parser. So let's say app.use, and let's use this body parser, and let's say dot URL encoded, and let's actually give this a value, and let's say I do not want that extended, so let's see, extended should be false, because you have to grab the value from, you can just think of this as a syntax, you'll always will have to write the same thing. And let's say body parser dot JSON, because we'll be only working on JSON data, not JSON, JSON. Cool. Chalo, let's move to the app then. Okay, let's move to the app. So I save this. Let's go to this and let's do something. All right, let's make this little more interesting. All right, let's make this a little more interesting. So you ready? Yeah, it's a middleware. So let's make this this a little interesting. So for post, when we are posting something, let's actually post something rather than this. So let's say I create a const. Let's call this new product. all right, and new product. And let's make this a JavaScript object. And let's say it has name. And now because we have body parser already, I can actually get onto this response. So I'll just come out here and I'll say response dot body dot name, right? So whatever that will be coming from the body of the post request, this is what we'll get. And we'll be looking for a price, right? Let's say we are looking for a price. We'll say response dot body dot price. Now, a lot of people would be thinking, and you should think about this, that how would my user know that I have a property like name? Because we are saying that the user is going to pass, because we are posting something. Try to understand. In the post request, what are we doing? My user is trying to post something in the database. Oh, why have I written REQ? REQ. Now think about it. If let's say, if I'm saying that I want to create a post, let's say I want to store something in the database. Now think about it. How would my user know that I am looking for a name and I have to pass a name, or I'm looking for a price? As a user, I need to pass a price. Might be a situation my user starts to throw something which is not good, or maybe my user starts to give me values which I'm not needing, because I am only looking for the name and the price of the product. Because I am see in the request, in the body of the request, I'm trying to find out a property called as name. What if my user doesn't give me that? Try to think about this in this way. I am looking for a property called as name, a property called as price, but my user is not giving me that. I think that's going to be a lot of problem. Don't you think so? Don't you think so, that this is going to be a problem? So how is my user going to get to know about this? This would be done by giving the documentation of the API. That is why it's important to always read the documentation of the API, because you get to know that what your developer is actually expecting from you. I hope this is making sense what I'm explaining. Making sense? That what I explained to you just now. So always read the documentation of the API before actually going around and actually importing that out and fetching that up. Cool stuff, cool beans. Yeah, yeah. All right. So let's quickly do that. All right, let's run the server. And now let's see. And let's do one thing. Let's actually give it one more message, and let's say created product, and let's pass this. Let's actually put a comma out here, and let's say the new product. So every time you'll be making up this product. So now let's say npm start. Now let's see how we are going to make a post request. Everyone is good? So the name property the user will be passing, because we want to post something in the database. Remember, we are posting something in the database. So let's see if that post is working fine or not. So you ready? Let's do a post. All right. So if we make a post, let's go to Postman. Now I'm going to make a post request to /products. Now, in this case, this is the way how you're going to pass a body. So if you see out here in Postman, there is a thing called as body. So if we come out here, you can just select raw, and from here I'm going to pass a body in the form of JSON. So always keep that in mind. So JSON has everything in string. So my user or my developer is expecting a name. Let's call this product1, comma. Then I'm expecting a price. And let's say the price is, let's say $12.99. Okay. Now if I send this, the created product didn't show up. The reason I did something, created product, new product, and the new product is wait. The new product is name request.body.name, comma, price, not price, request.body.price. So if it's getting 200, so I'm passing up a JSON and I'm saying created product is the new product. Sahi to hai? need to select, oh, I didn't select JSON, I believe. So in the headers, oh yeah. So I'll have to come out here and say application, sorry, the, what do you call this as? The content type. You'll have to give it application JSON. With that, I think it should work. Yeah, right? Okay. So in the headers, always say that I'm going to pass my data as application JSON. So in the headers part, make it a point that you write this content type as application JSON. And in the body, you could see that I'm passing a JSON. And you could see that the created product is coming out here. You can again change these values if you want, because you're making a post request. So these values actually make up to you. If let's suppose if I'm keeping this as, let's say, 9.99, send, and you'll see the same thing, product to 9.99. Make sense? Make sense? So you could see that my API is basically handling all the post requests. So I think we're good. We're good. We good. Let's do one more thing real quick, and then we'll integrate the backend. Let's actually take on to this part as well, wherein let's say I'm making a get request to /id. So let's get something. If let's say I'm getting this ID, so what I can do here is, all right. So if I'm thinking of to get this ID, I need to put on a colon, because this will be coming from the header or the URL. And I can just come out here and I can say that if, let's say, because it's just a dummy code, and I'm saying this, if this ID is equals to, let's say, special, or that means if it contains special, I can just come out here and I can just say, let's say rest dot, or let's actually copy paste this up. If this, then this, else. So rest.status 200, JSON is going to be, or let's say message is going to be found a special ID. On in this case, in the else part, I'm just gonna say just found an ID. See, now try to understand. And let's say I say ID is equals to request dot params dot ID. Okay, now see what we are doing. Just give me 1 second. You ready? Are we all here? Are we are on the same page? So we are making this get request to /product/ID. And we have to think about whatever ID which is getting passed on the URL. Now just pay attention. Whatever ID which is getting passed, I have to be very sure that that is going to be a variable ID. That is why I've kept a colon. Colon means that this ID is going to change depending upon the URL. Make sense, guys? Just quick yes or no. This colon is just going to identify that whatever the ID is going to be, this is going to be variable depending upon the URL, whatever URL that we have. All right. Now what we are doing, we are grabbing the ID, we are reading the ID from the URL. So we're saying in the request, there will be a parameter called as ID. So that is what we are targeting onto. I got this ID inside, you could say a variable. So let's call this const ID. And I'm just going to make this const ID as whatever that is coming from the request inside the parameters of the ID. And I'm saying if my request is going to look something like /products/special, so I'm just going to implement this. And else, if this is not the case, and if this is just a normal ID, I'm just going to say, hey, I just found an ID. Like it's just a normal ID. It's not a special ID, but it's just an ID. So that I can know that my API is working fine. So I hope this makes sense. So if I'm having /product/special, then I should get found a special ID. If I'm not passing any any ID apart from special, it's just going to say, hey, I just found an ID. Make sense? Should we implement this? So if I save this, go back to Postman, and if I make a get request to /product, let's say /some ID, and send this, you'll see message just found an ID. That means my code is working. But if I just pass, let's say product slash special and send this, you'll see a different message, found a special ID. That means the code is working completely fine. Make sense? Guys, quickly, make sense? Does this make sense? So if you don't mind, this was the thing that how you'll be creating an API, right? So the API is working fine. The API is completely working fine. Would you mind? I already have a code built in for the MongoDB integration. So if you don't mind, we can just theoretically look into it, and I'll post both the things up on GitHub, and you can access it from there because we are short on time. Can we do that? You'll get the whole idea. You'll get everything that we have discussed. Okay. So most probably I'll be having it somewhere in here in the documents. And I think this is the case, the customer API. So let's actually go to VS Code and open this up so that you'll get an idea. Now let's open this up on desktop and let's have a look on the customer API. Now try to understand it. Till one, we are just ending up with the session. Just one little thing. So you could see everything is pretty much the same thing. All right. The app is exactly the same thing, right? There's nothing hard and fast out there. If you'll have a look on the routes, I only have this products route, which I've basically made it in a way wherein I've integrated the database. Now for integrating database, the database that I'm going to use is going to be the MongoDB database. So let me actually just give you a little hands-on on MongoDB. It's going to take just another 5-10 minutes and then we'll end up with the session. So if you'll be having any doubts, you can stick on to that. We can cater on to your doubts as well. All right, just 5 to 10 minutes more and we'll end up with the session then. Cool. So now in here, either you have two ways of using MongoDB. Either you can download it as a software, as a community service. Either you can download it, but the better way of using it, the web version of doing the same thing. Yeah, I'll tell you about how MongoDB works. So there are two ways of downloading MongoDB. Either you can just go to software and download the community service. Do you want, should I show you how the community version or the community server works? Yeah, the Atlas can also work, but the idea of working it into the, I just hope you don't get, will you not get confused? If you will, we'll leave that up. But if you want to see, I can just show it to you. Do you want to see that? I think you'll get confused, but if you are interested, I can. Okay. So if you actually come to the community server, you can actually download the server and put it somewhere. As you could see that I already have it on my local host. So if I go to my home directory, you'll find a thing called as MongoDB macOS. Okay. So all you need to do is just go to your terminal and let's say cd to my home directory. And now if I ls, you'll see the MongoDB folder that I have. So all you need to do is to run the server. So let's go to MongoDB. All right, now if you do the ls, you'll find out something called as bin out here. So let's go to bin, cd bin. And inside this bin, you'll find one thing which is called as MongoD. So MongoD is basically the the server of MongoD. So you'll have to run this. So in order to run, if you're working on Windows, you can just write mongod.exe and press enter. That will be fine. If I just do MongoD, press enter, you will see that the whole server starts to run, and then you can just target onto this Mongo, and this Mongo will start to work. Or either you can just do is MongoD --db path, and wherever that you want your DB. So it's kind of like a little complicated. So if I actually open up this and then I go to cd this, and if I cd to MongoDB, and I can just go to the bin part, and then I have to go to Mongo. So you'll see that the Mongo will automatically open. Can you see that? You can see that the Mongo is working. So you can see out here, show DBS. It's kind of like complicated, I'll say. I'll explain the database connection. So I'll just telling you that you can, use it in local system if you want. If you're working on something like Brew or any package manager for that matter, if you're working on Mac, so that's going to be like a little easier, but I didn't work on it. Cool. So let's talk about that. Let me give you an overview on MongoDB real quick, then we'll end up. है ना? So I'll just explain it to you the code, and you'll get the idea. So you can actually use something called as the cluster version of MongoDB, which is basically the online server. So you do not need to work on localhost locally. So you can just go around and create the account. So you can just go around and sign up. It's free. It's completely free, but make sure that you're working on cluster 0. Okay. So make sure of that. Just create the account on MongoDB. If you'll feel doubt, you can push your doubt or message in the LinkedIn. I'll help you out. Don't worry on that part. So if you'll just have a look on the Atlas, this is the Atlas, which is basically for the online stuff, right? So if you just go to connect, if you could see, you have a thing called as connect. If you just click on connect, you will have multiple options, right? And let's say I want to connect to my application because I want the MongoDB to get connected to my application. So if I click out here saying connect to MongoDB, you can select the Node.js because our application is based on Node.js. So it will give you a link. Can you see this link? All you need to do is just copy this link. And in the link, there is this password. All you need to do is just edit this password. Okay. Now, if I go to my application, you could see that in the app.js you could see that I have used something called as Mongoose. So I installed Mongoose, as you can see in the package.json. I've used something called as Mongoose. So just go to the terminal, just write npm install -- save Mongoose. It will include that up. And using this Mongoose, what you can do is just write mongoose.connect, and the URL that you actually passed or you copied out from there, you can just paste it in here, but make sure that you give the what do you call this as the password. So in my case, the password is example pwd, and you could see rest is exactly the same thing. The moment you do this, it will automatically connect to your database. Okay. And once it's connected to your database, you could see out here, what have I done to this products.js? If you'll just have a look on the routes part, the routes are actually very easy. So in the routes, what have I done? Before we talk on to the routes, you have to create a model as well. So model is just the way to tell that what are all the things that will be coming from, which will be the data that will be coming from the database. So an ID will be coming, which will be auto-generated by Mongoose. So you'll just write mongoose.schema.types.object ID. That means this object ID will be created by MongoDB itself. You do not need to do anything about that. Then there will be a name, which will be of the type string, the price that will be of the type number. That's it. And then you export this as model to your product. And inside this product, as you could see, that we have imported this models part as the name of product. So product is basically the model. So for the people who have a little bit of an idea about model, the model is basically the thing which gives you that what will be the data that will be coming from the database. Okay. So in here, as you could see that in the post request, what have I done? I created up a new product, which is of the type new product. In the ID is going to be the same Mongoose types object ID. The name will be coming from request.body.name. Price will be coming from request.body.price. And the only thing that I've changed out here is going to be product.save. That's it. That's it. And the moment you'll write product.save, it will automatically be saved in your database. And you can actually check that out by console logging whatever the result that is going to be coming from out from there. That's it. And if you have any error, you can actually put a catch along with that. So if you want, I can actually run this for you people. Should I run this and show it to you? Should I run it? If you want, we can run this up. Chalo. So if I run this, let me actually install all the dependencies. So I'm just going to write npm install so that it install everything up. Cool. So 13 packages were found and everything were included. Cool. So let's actually do npm start. Okay. Now, the moment I'll be doing npm start, you could see that the MongoDB has basically started giving me few options out here. Okay. Joins ke liye, you can actually don't need joins. There are the syntax of MongoDB is completely different. So there are actually no joins in MongoDB. There are clusters in MongoDB. So join queries are basically deprecated. They are not used in MongoDB. Now in here, Now, if I make a post request, let's actually make a post request to slash products. Okay, let's make a post request to slash products. And let's say I want to make this a product one, which is of 11.99. There are no tables in MongoDB as well. There are documents. I'll show it to you. Just give me 1 second. Now, if I send this request, you'll see handling post request to slash products, the thing that we did. And in the created product, you're getting the underscore ID, which is a ID, a real ID, which is coming from the database and having the name of product one and price is 11.99. Now, if I go to my MongoDB and look at all my documents, so let me actually go to collections. And in the collections, you'll see automatically it's going to create a database for me called as my first database. And if you'll see this product, inside this will automatically will generate product one, price, and ID. Can you see this? So in this, there are no tables. It's exactly like JSON. There is no tables inside it. So this is all JSON part. This is called as NoSQL database. NoSQL means that the database which does not contain any tables. It doesn't have any tables for that matter. No tables at all. It only works on documents. It only works on JSON type data. Okay, that is why the stack for Node and JavaScript, all of these are really popular. So that is why you always have a MERN stack, a mean stack, because all of these frameworks are revolving around JavaScript, right? And these documents and these databases are really good in handling all of these JSON type data, as you could see out here, right? And now, as you could see, I can actually get the whole thing. If I copy this out and make a get request to slash product slash the ID that I just pasted in and send this request, you will get the product back. All right. Similarly, I can make, let's actually make another post request to, and let's give the body as product two. And let's say its price is 19.99 and send this. Oh, I made a wrong request. So post request to slash products, right? Send. So it will create the product. You can actually make a get request to just slash products and it will give you all the values. As you can see, there are two products that I posted and you can see both the products out here. So let me actually just give you a little brief on the code part. So in the code, as you could see for posting, I've just used something called as product.save. And for getting all the things, I've just used something called as product.find. So find is just going to give you all the documents inside the database. Yeah, so hexadecimal code, it's not exactly hexadecimal code. It's a complete different ID that is generated by MongoDB itself. So you do not need to worry. And it's not ID, it's underscore ID. So wherever you'll see me writing underscore ID, for example, out here, as you could see, that if I'm getting this product ID, I would be checking this out on underscore ID. So the underscore ID part, as you can see, the underscore ID part is generated by the MongoDB. So in the code, whenever you will be finding underscore ID, make sure that I'm referring to the ID which is in the database. Okay. All right. As you could see that I'm getting this ID from the request.params.product ID, and this is the whole stuff up. Cool. So let me actually go ahead and paste this on my GitHub if you want. So let me actually post this in and yeah. So I'll just do it get in it. This would take a little time. Yeah, I'll just give you the links, don't worry. Restful API with I'll provide the link in the chat section, don't worry. Restful API with Node.js and Express. Plus MongoDB, right? Oh, have I written triple M? Should be commit. COMMIT. Just 1 second. Cool. So let me actually create the repo for you people. And I'm just gonna say node, or let's actually call this customer API. All right, it's node customer API. Let's actually quickly make this. Oh, where was I doing stuff? Same, right? Get remote set URL origin. How many of you actually know how to work on Git, by the way? Anyone who knows how to work on Git? Good. If you don't, I'll highly will recommend you do that, because in the industry, it's going to help you out a lot. Git push hyphen new origin. Rather, let's create this as a master branch. So I believe this would be posted out. Cool. So you can actually download the code from here if you want. So just go on to this code. You can download the zip. You'll get the whole code. Okay. So this is the whole code that we have built up. Okay. Now ask me. Okay. Yeah. So you people were asking me for the YouTube channel link, right? So just give me 1 second. If I could open that out, just give me 1 second. Yeah. You can clone it. You can fork it. You can star it. You can do whatever you want with that. Now this is the channel. I'm just gonna put this link in the channel. Stay updated to the channel because we post a lot of stuff on YouTube. And if you'll come to the videos part, you'll find a lot of my videos as well and a lot of data science videos as well. This was one of the workshop that we did on the previous node. If you want to learn how to stream Twitter URL and stuff like that, so it was particularly in 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. And a lot of different parts as well. All right, so you can go through that. Your video for this session is also going to be get posted out here itself. So you can, if you want, you can subscribe us up. We'll be coming out with a lot of different things. Where is your React? React is in like complete different. If you would be needing my React or front-end framework, just DM me. I'll share it out with you. Okay, I'll share it out with you. If you would be needing that app, just DM me up on LinkedIn. For the people who want to connect with me on LinkedIn, so just DM me up on LinkedIn. I have Java. So in that I have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React. All of the things I have there. All right. Where to DM? I'm telling you, just wait. This is my LinkedIn. How we can connect front end and back end by using something called as Ajax. Even in the playlist, if you want, there is a dedicated session based on Ajax. So you can go through that video. You'll get an idea how to integrate front end and back end. There is a lot of different things that I've taught out there. So just in case if you'd be interested, you can do that. Right. I have a full-fledged playlist on that. So you can go through that playlist. Okay, so any doubts for that? I'll accept it. I just after ending up with the session, I'll accept it. If you have any doubts as of now related to anything related to career, related to what do you call this as the topic or the syllabus or anything for that matter, I'll give it to you, Part. Just DM me up on LinkedIn. I'll share it with you. I'll have to search that whole playlist stuff. It was just for 1 day. Just for a day, Priya. Okay. If you have any doubts, body parser seems deprecated. No, it's not. I just worked on it. So connect up with me, like send me a request. and I'll do that. Don't worry. Ask for premium. React versus Flutter, which one's better? Honestly speaking, React. React is the most popular front-end framework these days, and the community is very huge. So if you get stuck anywhere, you'll get a lot of help with the same. So the community is very huge. Sir, which is best, Python full stack or Mern? Mern, for sure. Mern and Mean are the two full stack that you should learn, like from heart. So and it's not like that if you're working on React, you shouldn't work on Angular. It's like you should get a flavor of both the frameworks. The ideology behind both the frameworks are like completely different, right? And once you actually get your hands dirty in React and Angular, you'll get a lot of idea about both of the frameworks. So there are few things that React is not good at. For example, if you want to perform routing, if you want to connect to a database, you have to import and fetch a lot of different third-party libraries on React. But when it comes to Angular, Angular is a full-fledged, everything is intact inside that framework, right? So if you talk about HTTP module, there are routers, that there are a lot of different things out there. Oh, thank you so much, Priya. Means a lot to me. I hope you enjoyed the session and you actually learned something. Yeah, the drawback before onto Angular is that you have to learn TypeScript. But again, TypeScript is just a superset of JavaScript. For the beginner of web developers, let me tell you, if you actually want to learn front-end frameworks or front-end development or full stack development for that matter, I'll highly will recommend you just focus on JavaScript. From basics to advanced, from example, callbacks, promises, all of these different things. If you can actually, thank you, Parth. Thank you. It means a lot to me, But yeah, so and I can actually give you the official documentation of the same. So if you actually go to MDN basically is the official documentation for JavaScript. So you can just write JavaScript MDN, and this is the official documentation. And pretty much anything starting from scratch to advanced, you'll find everything out here. Okay, so this is the official documentation. Go through it, go through my video if you want. I pretty much have covered everything from basics like arrow functions, classes, function modelings and stuff like that. So we have done that in the sessions. So you can go through and watch these videos back. I even have a full-fledged playlist on React as well. So if you're interested, you can go back there. So yeah, thank you so much for joining, people. I hope you enjoyed the session. And I hope you gained up few knowledge out here and there, right? Lovely having you people with me, and really hoping for few more sessions in the future as well. Go ahead and follow us up on LinkedIn, the Innomatics page. You'll get a lot of opportunities out there, be it be internship, be it be hackathon, be it be quizzes, cash prize, and a lot of things. What about the person who just started from? Honestly speaking, the best thing that you can do is to start from JavaScript and then go to front-end frameworks. As a fresher, should I go to React or should I go with Angular? Go with React, I'll say, because the React is basically a smaller version of the front-end framework. There are not a lot of things, so you can build the basic front-end page in React like in seconds. So that's like pretty cool stuff. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Which is the best part, React Native or React? Both. If you want to make Redux is basically nothing but a state management application, third-party library if you want to use. But even if you don't want to work on Redux, that could be like completely fine. We can do that. How to overcome that? If you have any useful links, I do basically. I am about to take a session most probably soon on TypeScript. If you'd be interested, you can join that session up. What is what's about Vue in Next.js? Next.js is just a extended version of React. Vue is completely different framework. So Next.js is just an extension of the same React. React is just an extended version is Next.js. Vue is a complete different framework, by the way. Okay, yeah. All right, then. Thank you so much, guys. It's been late for you people as well. We were supposed to end this up at 1, but it's like around 1:20. So thank you so much for having such a patience, right? I hope you learned something out of this session. Lovely having you people around. All right, stay connected, right? Go around and follow us up on LinkedIn's page, Innomatics Research Labs, and you'll get a lot of opportunities out there. All right, chalo. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. See you in the next session sometimes in future. All right, chalo. Bye-bye, guys. Stay home, stay safe. Chalo. Bye-bye.